Some WhatsApp user data has hit the dark web, dual booting is broken on Windows, X shutting down in Brazil with VPNs being wiped from the App Store, and a lot more. Welcome to Surveillance Report 192. We're dedicated to keeping you private and secure with the latest news in the past week. I'm Henry from Techlore.
I'm Nathan from The New Oil.
Same promo segment as we have every week, so you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/surveillancepod. You not only support this and keep it free for everybody, but you also get access to some exclusive perks, like longer versions of these episodes with a lot more analysis, and we actually cover a few more of our personal thoughts. We also cut out these promo segments, so you don't have to skip it when you're in the car or anything like that. But if you don't like Patreon, we also support LibrePay, and we also support Monero transactions. And a quick call for feedback. We are likely doing a live stream for SR200 as kind of a fun way to celebrate. So leave any feedback on what you want to see. And now we have our highlight story. WhatsApp users are seeing some of their information hit the dark web market. So this is actually a listener submitted story. So thank you to the person who sent it to our email. Essentially, there's a major data breach that could affect Belgian WhatsApp users. Now, many people in the US don't use WhatsApp, but WhatsApp is a pretty staple messenger outside of the States. So we are seeing this in Belgian users, but about 3.2 million numbers and user IDs were collected and put up for sale on a forum, potentially exposing these users to various cybersecurity risks. According to other articles, the readers sent us in Dutch that this was not a breach, but rather a scrape. So it's a good reminder to check your settings and change visibility to things like friends only to avoid scrapes like this. Essentially, to kind of describe this a little bit more cleanly, a scrape might be a situation where somebody just puts in random phone numbers, sees if a WhatsApp account is linked to it, and then they can verify that that's a WhatsApp number. So that's why the discoverability settings are really important. Definitely concerning, keep an eye on it, and make sure to check up on your WhatsApp settings.
I mean, this is a really short, really straightforward story. But again, like Henry said, WhatsApp is hugely popular outside the US. So that's kind of why we're covering this, because I know we have a ton of international listeners. So I know me personally, I don't think of things like instant messengers like WhatsApp and Signal. I don't think of those as social media, but they kind of are. And like Henry said, it's not really hard, I would imagine. I'm not a developer, but it's probably not hard to build a bot that just brute forces phone numbers. That's the thing, is if it found a phone number, it was pulling user IDs, profile pictures, names, things like that, if I remember the email correctly. So I haven't used WhatsApp in years, but from what I understand, you can change like your profile picture and your profile bio and stuff like that if WhatsApp has bios. Point being, you can change a lot of information to be like friends only or just completely private so nobody can see it except you. And it is just a good reminder. And that goes for anything, whether it's less traditional social media like WhatsApp and Signal, or whether it's more traditional stuff like Twitter/X or, Mastodon. It's just be aware of what you're posting there. We, not to harp on it too much, but we do always talk about anything you put in a digital format, you should assume it's public. And I think usually when we say that, we're talking about in the context of like DMs on Mastodon, for example. It's well known those are not encrypted, or even encrypted emails, encrypted messages. Nothing is really stopping those people from screenshotting things and sending them to somebody else. But that also goes for public things, even if it's a public Twitter account, a public Facebook, Mastodon, whatever, YouTube video. Just remember that's out there for anybody.
Yeah, and just also another reminder that many other messengers have similar privacy features. So even Signal now, you can actually turn off discoverability with a phone number and just migrate to a username only workflow. And same thing with Telegram. And the cool thing with the Signal one is even if somehow someone got your username and they posted it online, you can just change your username to be something else. They're meant to be somewhat disposable. But then same thing with Telegram, same thing with many other platforms. So just check the settings of all of your messengers. And if you're someone who's on iMessage, I highly recommend exploring the email workflow, where you can link multiple emails to your iCloud account, and then you can actually turn off discoverability with a phone number through iMessage.
I'm hyper paranoid every time I give my Signal number to, or not number, but username to anybody. I just go in and change it again because I just randomly generate them. Okay, like I said, that's a really quick highlight story. So we're going to jump into the data breaches now, and we're going to start with Toyota, who has confirmed a breach after stolen data was leaked on a hacking forum. 07 Group, and that's the threat actor who leaked the stolen data, says they breached a US branch and were able to steal 240 gigs of files with information on employees and customers, as well as contracts and financial information. They also claim to have collected network infrastructure information, including credentials, using the open source AD Recon tool that can help extract vast amounts of information from Active Directory environments. So this includes everything from contacts, finance, customers, schemes, employees, photos, databases. I'm assuming it says DBs. I assume that means databases, network infrastructure, emails, and, quote, a lot of perfect data. We also offer you AD Recon for all target network with passwords, and that's from like the listing on the forum. While Toyota hasn't shared the date of the breach, Bleeping Computer found that the files had been stolen or at least created on December 25th, 2022. This could indicate that the threat actor gained access to a backup server where the data was stored.
The Oregon Zoo has warned visitors that their credit card details were stolen. So people who purchased tickets online between December and June had their payment card information compromised. This is formerly the Portland Zoo and Washington Park Zoo, and it's now been rebranded to the Oregon Zoo, and it's pretty much owned by the Metro government there. So it's home to 1,800 animals from 232 species, and a lot of other cool details for those who want to see the animal information. It's the state's largest zoo and one of the most popular tourist attractions. Now, the information that was exposed as a result of this breach includes full names, payment card numbers, card verification values, the 3-digit ones, expiration date, and more. So in total, over 100,000 people have received or will receive the data breach notification. To protect customers from similar risks, the establishment deployed a new, more secure patients portal. Additionally, letter recipients are provided with a free-of-charge 12-month credit monitoring and identity protection service to mitigate the risk from the payment card data compromise.
Canon Design confirms Avos Locker ransomware data breach. Canon Design is a multi-awarded architectural engineering and consulting firm based in the US. They've done a lot of high-profile projects on academic buildings, hospitals, and sports arenas. The investigation revealed that the threat actor might have accessed names, addresses, social security numbers, and driver's license numbers, and this impacted more than 13,000 clients. And since they say clients, I'm going to assume that doesn't just mean 13,000 people. That means like 13,000 businesses, which could probably impact more people. Notification recipients are offered 24 months of credit monitoring through Experian. And the article says, though, it should be noted that this comes with a significant delay. The breach happened back in January of 2023, and the investigation wasn't completed until May of this year.
Now we're going to move into companies. Microsoft is going to roll out Windows Recall to insiders in October. Some context and history. Microsoft announced their feature, Windows Recall, that essentially saves your computer and different things you're doing in moments of time, but there were massive privacy and security features with this, and so they actually paused it and said, we'll continue it later. And now this is the update to that. It's going to start rolling out its AI-powered Windows Recall feature to insiders, which is like the private testing group for Microsoft Windows, with Copilot plus PCs specifically in October. They also promised to prioritize security with the preview, which aligns with its recent pledge to prioritize security above all else. They said that more details will be published in a new blog when that feature rolls out.
This next story is really quick. It comes from Apple. It says Apple to update EU browser options and make more apps deletable. Really, we can sum this up in one sentence. Users will be able to delete certain Apple-made apps such as App Store, Messages, Camera, Photos, and Safari. Only settings and phone apps would not be deletable.
Google Play will no longer pay to discover vulnerabilities in popular Android apps. For context, for people who don't know what this is, Google announced something called the Google Play Security Reward Program back in October of 2017, and what this was designed to do was to incentivize security researchers to find and disclose vulnerabilities in popular apps on the Play Store. This seems to be pretty successful overall. Google even said that they liked it, but they're now deciding to wind down this program. In an email to developers, the company announced that they're going to end this on August 31st. The reason they gave is that the program has seen a decrease in the number of vulnerabilities reported, and the company credits this to the overall increase in the Android OS security posture and feature hardening efforts. One small detail that they also included was that essentially, they took a lot of the reports and they learned some of the common patterns from these reports, these vulnerabilities that people had, and they were able to essentially automate the process of finding more of those.
And our last company story comes from Ticketmaster. So the headline says Ticketmaster used revolving barcodes to control ticket resale market and surveil customers, Department of Justice alleges. So quoting the article, it says SafeTix is a technology in which the ticket barcode changes every 15 seconds that was ostensibly created to prevent fraud, but has had the knock-on effect of allowing Ticketmaster to control how and if a ticket can be resold or transferred to another person. SafeTix has also fortified Live Nation's data advantages over its rivals. As Live Nation's CEO put it, quote, "One of the advantages we've launched under the transfer strategy is we now not only know the person who bought the ticket, but we're going to know those 3 people that you are taking to the show, which we have not known historically," unquote. So there was a security researcher who wrote a blog post about this whole thing. And in that post, they wrote, quote, "SafeTix also pushes users to install Ticketmaster's proprietary closed-sourced app, which gives Ticketmaster more insight into the user's device and behavior. People can't save and transfer tickets outside of Ticketmaster. This forces ticket holders to surrender their friends' contact information to Ticketmaster, who can use this data to build social graphs or conduct other privacy-invasive practices," unquote.
Well, there was no research this week, so we're going to go right into the politics. Google's also kind of getting it a little bit, so they can't defend shady Chrome data hoarding as browser agnostic, is what the court said. So there's an appeals court that said the US District Court had erred in ruling that Google's general privacy policies secured consent for their data collection. They failed to consider conflicts with their Google Chrome privacy notice, which said that users' choice not to sync Chrome with their Google accounts meant that certain personal information would not be collected. Rather than analyzing the CPN, it appears that the US District Court completely bought into Google's argument that the CPN didn't apply because the data collection at issue was browser agnostic and occurred whether a user was browsing with Chrome or not. But the appeals court, by a 3-0 vote, did not. This case will likely now trigger a class action lawsuit.
Our only other political story this week comes from Brazil, where X is shut down. So apparently this has something to do with a censorship dispute. I guess X has decided in response they're just not going to service Brazil. So they've pulled out of the app stores in Brazil. As many of you know, the way around that is a VPN. Unfortunately, some VPN providers are reportedly disappearing from the App Store in Brazil. So according to the head of the researcher at Top 10 VPN, at least 30 VPN apps are now unavailable, including NordVPN, ExpressVPN, and Surfshark, as well as Proton. Actually, Andy Yen went to X/Twitter. He did confirm that the problem was at the App Store level. He wrote, quote, "Could be a bug or Apple implementing a secret censorship order."
Free and open source news. August Windows updates have broken dual boot on some Linux systems. The August 2024 Windows updates are breaking dual boot on Linux systems with Secure Boot enabled. This is caused by Microsoft's decision to apply a Secure Boot Advanced Targeting update to block Linux bootloaders unpatched against the CVE 2022-2601 Grub 2 Secure Boot bypass vulnerability, which could have an impact on Windows security. So while they say that this update has blocked a vulnerability, it should not impact dual boot systems, is what they said. But many Linux users say that their systems running Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Zorin, Puppy, and other distros no longer boot after installing the Windows update. The only way to revive the device is to disable Secure Boot, install the latest version of their favorite Linux distro, and then re-enable Secure Boot. Microsoft has suggested a fix, which is disable Secure Boot, delete the update, the SBAT update, the Microsoft one, re-enable Secure Boot, and then prevent future SBAT updates.
This last story is really, really quick. Linux market share reaches new peak. As of July 2024, it hit 4.45%. And that'll take us into the Misfits section. There's only one story. I'm going to go ahead and take this one because that last story was so short. A $50 2GB Raspberry Pi 5 comes with a lower price and a tweaked, cheaper CPU. So this is currently $10 less than the 4GB configuration and $30 less than the 8GB configuration. So the CEO writes that the 2GB version includes a revised version of the Broadcom BCM2712C1 SoC that is slightly cheaper to manufacture. Upton says that the D0 stepping of the chip strips out some of the, quote, dark silicon built-in functionality that the Pi wasn't using but was still taking up space and increasing the cost of the chip. But the article did note that for the bang for your buck, they would recommend just getting the 4GB configuration because it's only $10 more. But for those of you who are like really on a budget or, you know, just really only want to pay for what you're going to use, hey, it's nice to have options for people. So that's pretty cool.
Well, that's it for the week. Again, some WhatsApp users were hit by a data breach, so if you use any messenger, just make sure to go in and check your privacy settings. Dual booting is broken on Windows, X is shutting down in Brazil with also some VPNs along with it, and a lot more. It was a pretty fun week. Again, if you got value out of this, Patreon is the best way to support this podcast. You can join it at patreon.com/surveillancepod. You have some nice perks there. And also you get access to things like no segments like this. We just cut it out for you. And also we have a lot more commentary there as well. If you don't like Patreon, we're on LiberPay. And we also support Monero for the most private way to give back. Finally, again, leave us feedback on SR200 and what you want to see in the live stream. If you'd want just a regular episode but live streamed, or if you want to do something else, just let us know any ideas you have. And of course, share this podcast around. Word of mouth is the best way to get it around to other people. We really appreciate that. And we couldn't really do it without all of you who really care about this podcast and what we talk about. So we really appreciate that. We appreciate you all. And we'll see you next week.